American idolatry. Two words that, when they go together, is something a little weird. Most of us don't believe in idolatry. Most of us don't believe that there are other gods. In fact, a lot of us don't believe there's one God, but we can talk about that another time. But for now, this week, I want to ask the question, what does it mean to worship something other than God? Where do we draw the line between really enjoying something and worshiping it? And what are the ramifications of worshiping something other than God, especially in this modern American context? American idolatry is what we're talking about this week on the live show.
Kindred UMC live show features adults discussing adult topics, occasionally with adult language. It may not be suitable for young viewers. Please use discretion before watching.
Hello all, welcome once again to the Kindred UMC pre-recorded live show, coming to you not live but pre-recorded from my front room, aka Kindred Studio A. My name is Chris Hayden. I am the pastor of Kindred UMC.
My name is Ann, and I'm the treasurer for Kindred UMC.
And I'm Preston, and I'm here. Go Phillies. They just got into the World Series today.
Oh.
What's the little dance you do?
This thing? I haven't done that in years.
Go Phillies. But actually go Bucks.
That's okay.
Right.
Yeah. It'd be the Rays, I think, for you.
So, we are now into a brand new series. This will, even though we are before our actually live show, this will be after our actually live show. And we are going to be talking about everyone's favorite topic, membership and money.
Perfect.
It's always a thing. If you talk to people and you ask them, like, you know, what they don't like about church, one of the first things that comes up is they're always talking about money. And then if you ask people, like, for real world topics of what the church should be talking about and helping people with, one of the major topics is always money. So, like, we both want to talk about money and we hate talking about money. So let's just acknowledge that that's where we are. That's where we are. We are a contradictory people. We are a myriad different emotions all at the same time. So to get us started, for the next 3 weeks, we're gonna be talking about membership and money. And I hope that you'll still stay tuned anyway. But I want to talk about, this week, I want to give us a nice little foundation, and I want to talk about everyone else's favorite topic, idolatry. So I'm just, it's all good. Everyone's favorite topics. So first of all, I didn't set you up for this, but idolatry, what comes to mind when you think about idolatry?
I don't say it out loud enough, I think. Because you keep saying it, I'm like, I don't think that's how you say it. But
the word's lost on me.
I can't say it differently. Yeah. Idolatry? I don't know. Idolatry.
Yeah, idols.
Idolatry.
Worship of idols, basically.
I don't know. I go back to, like, when I was younger, and it was all about trying not to, like, idolize, I got to look good, and I got to, like, taking care of me.
I thought you were going to say Backstreet Boys.
Oh, no.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I did watch their Christmas special the other day. But then, like, as I'm getting older, it's like the things that you kind of idolize and how you idolize them shift. And so now, I don't know, like, I've been thinking.
How so?
See, now I think there's a lot more focus on, like, my family.
Okay.
And
well, you're a new mother,
my security.
So that makes a lot of sense.
It does. But, like, there comes a level of, like, I feel like so much of my time and energy and everything goes straight to the baby. And that's okay, but it's like, we always have that conversation of, like, what would you sell your soul for?
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah,
I would be real tempted if something was going on with my child to be like, yeah, you know what? I would, like, throw myself on a rock. I would, no, like, really. I'm
not sure that's...
It's not.
Well, so all right. So this is setting us up well. We're gonna come back to this because we're gonna. I had a really hard time. Spoiler alert. One of the questions I want to talk about is what does it mean to worship something? Because I am a professional Christian and I have a master's degree in being a good pastor, and I all day today was like, I don't think that I can come up with a good working logical definition of I find myself defaulting back to the old the court case about pornography. Like, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it, you know? like that's kind of how I was feeling about. I was like, I can't really define in a functional way where things cross the line from like, oh, that's important to me to I'm worshiping that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So before we get too far, let's ground ourselves in good old Pauline epistle scripture theology. This is a letter that Paul wrote to the church that he started in Rome, and then he moved away, and that's why it's called Romans. And so this is Romans chapter 1. I'm skipping over the traditional greetings because there's a lot of formality at the beginning, and I'm just kind of like getting back into, when he actually starts talking about the stuff he wants to talk about. And that is, I'm going to start at verse 20, and I'm going to read to 25. So he's specifically addressing an issue, and he's talking about the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, which is a story from the Old Testament. And so there's going to be a lot of like they, and he's talking about the people from the Old Testament story about Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, so this is verse 20. Ever since the creation of the world, God's eternal power and divine nature, invisible though they are, have been understood and seen through the things that he has made. So Paul is saying God's nature and God's glory and all of the immense, wonderful attributes we would ascribe to God are made clear and evident through creation, if through nothing else, So even if you've never met a missionary, even if no one's ever told you the gospel, even if you his point is, yeah, but even then, just creation itself gives evidence to who God is and what God's about. So there's no excuse for saying there is no God. I don't believe in a God. Like that's kind of Paul's point. And we can talk, I don't mean that judgmentally, because I know there's a lot of people that we particularly minister to who are like, I don't know that that's exactly self-evident either. But this is what Paul's saying, and we can unpack that stuff, okay? So stay with me, all right? Stay with me. So have been understood and seen through the things that he's made. So they are without excuse, they being the Sodom and Gomorrah people, the people who were worshiping not God. So they're without excuse because they know who God is through creation. For though they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him. But they became futile in their thinking, and their senseless minds were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools, and they exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling a mortal human being, or birds, or four-footed animals, or reptiles, or any other creature, created, not creator, Therefore, God gave them up in the lusts of their hearts to impurity, to the degrading of their bodies among themselves, because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. So now I would like to introduce the title of this particular series, which is We Become What We Worship.
You are what you eat? Is that?
Yeah.
We are what we eat,
Okay.
and we become and take on the attributes of what we worship.
Mm-hmm.
And so Paul is talking in this particular passage, and he's kind of warning the Roman church about this and using an Old Testament example. And he's saying, listen, when people start worshiping the things that God made rather than God, God has a tendency to go right ahead. And leaves them to their own devices. And then, and especially in this example, the people who are worshiping the things rather than the one who made the things start to become enraptured with themselves and self-aggrandizing. And they start to take on the traits of the things that they're worshiping, So the first thing I want to start with, and this goes back to the spoiler, is how do you know when you're worshiping something? What does it mean to worship? Because there's the technical definition of you show up on Sunday morning in a sanctuary or in a temple or in a mosque or, at the appropriate time with a gathered and you sing songs and you recite, liturgy in our case. I don't know what the other terms might be, but and then you pray together and somebody interprets some kind of text and there's that version, but that's like a worship service. That's not what it means to worship something. So like, what do you think is a good kind of working definition of like, what does it mean to worship something?
I think full attention, like undivided. You're not, it's hard to do with the human mind, but you're not focused on anything else while that's happening. But you're also putting a conscious effort in to do it. Versus,
so there's choice involved.
There's choice involved, 100% choice involved. A kid next to you screaming isn't going to bother you doing it because you're choicefully doing it,
and you're like dedicated.
Like this will not bother me because I'm here and I want to do this.
I would say that like something can distract you from worship, like it does all the time for me. Like, I was literally at a worship service this morning and I was distracted many times.
I witnessed.
Yeah.
I was also going to say the flow state. There's like a meditative flow state I think is involved with worship too.
Okay.
Which is, I have a big issue with doing it out with the lay people, but I have a better time doing it behind a drum set in the dark with no one else around.
Right,
I can get into
Don't look at me.
Well, that and I'm playing the loudest thing in the room, which doesn't help, but I'm also not paying attention to that. I'm focused on whatever I'm doing or
so that's like kind of a specific, like I am acting out worship. What about a broader, so here's one of the things, like I was working with, worship is defined by, it's a thing that I orient my being around. It's not just a thing that I like. It's not just a thing I'm dedicated to and I'm faithful to, because I'm dedicated and faithful to my wife and my dog and my mortgage. These are all things that I'm faithful and dedicated to. But those things, I mean, at my best, those things don't define my being. And I think there's something about our being that is at the center of worship.
Well, it's existential, which is why it's hard to put a place on or put a holder on, because and then when you do approach it from whatever side you're on, even an atheist side, it's like I'm here alone here. Then there's no one else that can compare to what my life is. And then from a Christian standpoint, it's, well, at least I have, God here with me to do something with it. So I at least am not alone. I just maybe don't know how to handle this existentialism.
I think it kind of tips a little bit to that side of, we talk about needing to surrender to the higher power, so to speak, like just
good
lean into it.
Right there.
Yeah. But lean into it, like just be okay with it and lean into it. And I think, what are you leaning into?
Yeah.
What's going to catch you?
See, now here's you're a perfect example.
Oh, no.
Because what you already said, even that functioning definition of like what you're leaning into, what you're allowing to define you, what shapes your being. I can only imagine that having a child in healthy ways necessitates a lot of that.
Yes.
Of course, having a child is going to affect your being and your identity and who you are and what you do with like your limited time on the planet, but nobody would call, parenthood worshiping of the child. It's a very severe, serious calling, but it's not necessarily worship. And that's why I've been struggling with what does it mean to worship something? So, all right. So here's the thing that I was thinking about. Just a modern day problem. Social media is a thing that we worship.
Absolutely.
It is truly a thing that defines our being and our utmost. And so the example, because I've talked about this before when I was preaching in proper, but the example that I used that I think really, gun control, we're just having a rash of mass shootings. I'm a proud gun owner. I have a concealed carry license. I grew up I was born in Dallas. I grew up around guns. I'm a good shot. I'm a gun guy, I believe strongly in the Second Amendment. And also, yeah, I don't understand why we can't, like 90% of us agree on some reasonable laws and some reasonable, like 90% of Americans agree on some pretty like common sense laws on like how we should regulate and manage firearms, you know? And like certainly there's some, you know, some nuance and some disagreement, but like 90% of it. But if you go online and enter into the conversations through Reddit or Facebook or whatever, you know, whatever your choice of social media is, you would believe that there's like 50% of the country that's like, people should be able to own nuclear weapons. And 50% of the country that are like, the Second Amendment is for dummies and evil people who only want to take over the world, you know? And like, it's so not the case at all. And yet, because, again, back to the nature of worship, because we idolize this internet, social media, because we go to it for our being and for our identity and for our like self-value, because we go to this cloud of anonymous digital who knows what, you would have us believe that the country is entirely divided on this. And it's just not. Like, it's not the truth. And that's another theme that Paul's talking about. Like people who knew the truth and instead decided to completely squash it and disregard it. And like there's something about worship that is associated with what is true. And like and the gun control is just the hottest button that I could think of to hit. There's a half a dozen more that I could just shoot off right now, where we're just completely up our butts about stuff. Just completely not being truthful and not being real and not being honest with each other. So I think there's something about the worship that is that seems to be related to our sense of not just who we are, but our sense of reality, and effectively our sense of who everyone else is too.
Is that doesn't that tie into identity? Not politics, but identity. What do you call that? Identifiableness? Something like you're
like individuality.
Sure, but your being is so radical or whatever to you that you are the only person that can be this, and anyone else that challenges that, which is what I'm going to talk about next, is wrong and against you. So now there's a combat.
Well, so now we're into like discipleship, like the Christian covenant that we make with each other.
Yeah,
you know, because I think there is a philosophy of thought that is, and again, this goes back to the idolatry thing. I don't need something outside of me to tell me what I am.
Right.
I already know who I am because I know how I feel. And first of all, no, you don't. Like, it's a wildly complicated thing. Personality and identity is a wildly complicated thing that we are only just beginning to understand. So you alone, you may know how you feel in a specific, and you may, but like apart from a covenant, apart from a group of people who genuinely care about you. And this is where I can be critical about the church too. Because a lot of times that covenant has been corrupted and weaponized, and judgment has been used as a way to exclude and make us feel better and them feel worse. So like certainly it's been abusive in the past in a lot of ways. However, at least from scripture and from my own experience and calling as a pastor, the real truth of it seems to be that no, it's actually, and gosh, even because I'm a psychologist, even the research seems to say, no, your identity is contextual based on the people you're with and the relationships you have.
And even your own memory that's playing itself against itself.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying.
So
here's you just play VHSs back that you made yourself to make yourself feel bad.
Because we would like to be the lords of our, and that's why it's easier to worship the creature than the creator. Because the creature you have control over. Mm-hmm. You can worship a phone that you can hold, and now like you have no idea how much control that phone has over you. But like you can worship a thing you can hold much more easily than you can worship an invisible, almighty, all-powerful God, and much more easily than you can submit yourself to a group of people who may tell you things about yourself or may hold up a mirror in a way that you're not comfortable with.
Well, yeah, two things that are bigger than you
Yeah.
Yeah.
that you can't control.
Yeah, literally,
That is terrifying to 100,000% of people. So what I was going to say is it boils down to this weird, ethereal, esoteric, this primal carnal spirit that we idolize. This get to the next tree. You will get to the next tree. I will kill anybody in my way.
Well, it's
I will
interesting you say
R-word.
tree.
Well,
Genesis 1.
I know what I'm saying. I'm saying on purpose. But it all boils down. Power corrupts.
Sorry, it's actually Genesis chapter 2. Don't come for me. Don't leave comments about that. Leave comments that say, he did get it. He corrected it. He got it. It's Genesis chapter 2.
But
that's the Adam and Eve story.
Competitive spirit, like the carnal competitive, ties to power hungry, needing to be in control, not wanting anyone else ahead of you or above you or around you telling you that you're wrong. You are always in charge. This, I will choose my partner and be what my partner, and my partner will be my partner. And they are my partner. That's like having all of this like weird, overly controlling, and we are purely worshiping that. That's like the idol of it, because it's like the human spirit, I think. That's what's always like.
Well, I think it's specifically I think it's a Western spirit.
Well,
you know?
yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like I'm very patriotic. I'm very big on Western capitalist democracy. Like I think it's done. I'm very patriotic.
But Western
and also we can acknowledge that it's not perfect and it's got some flaws.
Yeah, but Western not even being American. Western could be west of Japan. Like feudal China was insane competitive, and then Rome, and then Greece, and then all this.
Yeah,
it's not just us.
We diverge though.
Right.
True. I was going to say it's not just the competitive. I think it's the control.
Yeah, well, you're right. So I'm trying to see like what are we really worshiping? Are we worshiping me needs control over everything?
It's so much easier to worship something that you can control.
Yeah.
Because now that thing can't define you in a way that is challenging or hurtful and if
it does, you can dismiss it.
Yeah.
See you later.
Like bye.
Just check it. You know, it's a statue. Check it. You know, it's a phone. Check it.
Right.
Although nobody does.
Oh, they'll run right after this. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Well, so that is the nature of what Paul is warning against. Like, there's a reason nobody chucks their phone. Mm-hmm. And it's because it is like we are becoming like the things that we are worshiping. You know, like I deleted Facebook and I've multiple times been tempted to reinstall, at least on my phone. I have to have it because I use it for church stuff because that's where people are, you know?
Yeah.
But I got rid of pretty much all of my social media on my phone because it was just making me so unhappy. The only thing I have is Reddit, and that's because I can define my homepage, the thing, like, and I subscribe to like moderate politics, a couple of podcasts that are totally comedy, and so that it doesn't make me sad when I look at it, because it was making me. I was becoming the thing that I was worshiping. You know, like so. All right. So this is a starting place because I want to continue the conversation in the next couple of weeks about, what we're worshiping and how it's defining us. And two of the big things is where do you spend your money, where do you spend your time. So that's what we're going to be talking about in the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, I do encourage you to maybe practice a little bit of generosity and maybe not define yourself by your money, and consider donating to Kindred UMC. There will be a QR code at the end of the screen and a link down below. 100% of the proceeds will go this month to relief in Hurricane Ian, relief in South Florida and anywhere else that's been affected. And I do mean 100%. Even the organization that we are giving to is funded elsewhere. And so everything that you give will go directly to people who have been hurt by this natural disaster. So please consider donating. And then later I'm going to ask you to consider even joining the church. So get ready for that. All right. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.